Hello, everyone. Welcome to our very first online DireXions 2025. My name is Jackie Kennedy. Like Ryan said, I am a software developer and the newest member of the PX Plus team. It was last year's conference that made that happen, and some of you can probably do recognize me. I do have some previous work family with us here today as well from Brand Safeway. The presentation walkthrough is approximately 20 minutes with a hands-on demonstration, and then we can have some discussions at the end. Just a reminder that you will be muted during the presentation and demo. You can enter any questions in the input in the chat and or QA section during the presentation, and be sure that those questions you have will be answered. And with that being said, it makes me very proud to be walking all of you through the presentation for PX Plus web development toolkit called Webster Plus.
Jackie, you went on mute.
Sorry. We will be covering a lot of ground with today's agenda, mostly covering those basic steps on how to get you out of the gate, but also some basic CSS styling tips to help you learn how to customize those pages to look and feel modern within the Webster Plus environment. So let's get started. What is Webster Plus? It's basically a framework for building a web page or website equipped with web-based applications, yet keeping within the PX Plus development environment. It's designed for browser-only applications and uses a REST-style interface. And it was introduced in PX Plus 2021. What does it have to offer? It has a full set of web management tools such as website setup and configuration. This is the general configuration of the website's environment, settings, and structure. User setup and security for creating, modifying, and displaying user accounts or disabling user accounts and managing their access levels and permissions. It has password control. These are tools for managing user passwords which may include setting complexity requirements, force resets, and handling password recovery. There's an optional two-factor authentication, TFA. This is an enhanced security measure where users will be required to verify their identity via a second method using text message or email verifications. It has menu system and left sidebar menu maintenance for managing the navigational structure of the website. It includes adding, updating, and or reordering main menu items and the content displayed in the left sidebar. The system allows for the creation of web page layouts using default or custom templates. This will facilitate a consistent web page look and feel without needing to write code from scratch every time. All of these tools are already available and pre-built into Webster Plus. You don't have to do all that work yourself. You can modify any one of those tools to suit your own specific needs. All of these tools can be found in the lib_Webster directory. And these are all managed by an administrator or sysadmin that you will set up with security. We'll be setting up an admin during the demo so you can see how that looks. Oops. So bottom line, it's a all-in-one, secure, centralized administrative interface for managing the fundamental aspects of a website. It also allows developers to create dynamic HTML5 compatible pages using shortcodes. The shortcodes are processed by a binding utility, which replaces the shortcodes in the HTML documents with the necessary HTML elements for rendering in a web browser. It integrates with the Nomad's query and file maintenance generator systems. Any query defined using the data dictionary will be usable, and the file maintenance generator creates the page and program for you. It provides the ability to run reports that have been created using the report writer interface. It offers flexible page loading, supporting both traditional full page loads and modern, faster partial page updates like Ajax. The system is compatible on 3 common web server platforms: Apache, EasyWeb, and IIS. The whole process only takes 5 steps. We've got prereqs, install, launch, set up and config, and build your web pages. Getting started with the prereqs, there's not a whole lot that you need to do in order to get started. You'll need PX Plus 2021 or later, the directory path in which you want to create the Webster library environment, which port number you're going to use. HTTP port 8088 is the default we use. The server you're going to use, the three we have available are our PX Plus server, EasyWeb, Apache, and IIS. Now, Apache and IIS will be a special manual setup, but for the demo, we are going to use the EasyWeb server because it's easy. So, and finally, basic knowledge of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Already on to step 2, which is installation for EasyWeb or Apache. There's 2 ways to install Webster Plus, using the IDE or using the command line. Steps for both are documented fully in our help doc. For this demo today, I'll be using the IDE. When you click on Install Webster Plus on the IDE, a Webster Plus install assistant will appear for EasyWeb or Apache only. This is where all our prereq requirements will be entered. Install path is the directory path in which you want to create the Webster Plus application library environment. Port is the port number you're going to use. As you can see, we have port number 8088 as the default. Web server is the server you're going to use. Either EasyWeb or Apache is your choices. SSL, TLS, PEM file path. If your site is secure, you will have an SSL certificate. This would be the path name to the SSL, TLS, PEM file. And if you chose Apache for the web server, the domain name field becomes available for input of your domain name. And when you click install, you'll see a result message box that lets you know the details of the install. This particular message displays if EasyWeb is used. However, if you chose Apache, a different message would display. Big note here, folks, this install will also create a desktop icon, which only launches the EasyWeb. It does not launch the actual Webster Plus environment. The installer will create 4 directories. These directories are going to contain the files necessary to configure the Webster Plus environment. Data contains the data files, reports, images, and nomads libraries. Doc root, this is your default web server's home root directory. The install will create 2 programs as well, startup.web and webster.pxp. This is also where you will be saving your style sheets and your JavaScript files. It's important to know for security purposes, it's best to have the doc root empty, except for these particular programs and files. Your pages directory is where all the HTML, HTM, and text files will be saved. And finally, the prog directory for all those programs that are needed to run our applications. When you look at those 2 programs that Webster created, the startup.web program defines the location of the data files and pages, and using the prefix directive, the location of the programs. The Webster.pxp program would be responsible for establishing the Webster Plus environment. Both programs are intended to be baseline programs, such items like global variables, system params, and any other settings you may choose to add. And finally, I probably don't need to tell you guys this, but be sure to enter your custom code prior to the run command for Webster. Otherwise, none of these presets are going to be executed. Already on to step 3, launching Webster Plus. At this point in time, you already have a fully functional Webster Plus environment. This step is where you just launch it. The initial preparation is complete. Again, Apache and IIS are more of a manual process. And for this demo, we are using the IDE. But you can also enter the URL in the browser directly to bring up your website. I will show you that method during the demo. So from the IDE, you will click on Launch Webster Plus using EasyWeb. The application will appear showing the port number that you chose. You do have the option to change this on the fly. Click on the Launch Webster Plus on port 8088 button. Once the application is ready, you will see a confirmation window. We'll just press OK to launch the window. Once we click OK, the browser launches the website with the only option for setup on the left sidebar menu. You will also notice a statistics link on the bottom left. The middle is the page contents. It's loaded the default landing page. This is where you can load your own customized landing page, which outside PX Plus is also referred to as the index. The only option here is to click Setup in order to start configuring the environment. This will bring you to the Setups main screen. It contains many utilities across the top. For today's demo, I'm only going to cover a few points on security and links, but mostly focus on the Config tab for our system configurations. With the Config tab, we have another menu with more configuration settings. I will show you the initial steps in the Security tab, some basic troubleshooting steps in the Miscellaneous tab, but today's main focus will be the Site Info, Customizations, and Template tab. Earlier, we talked about the management tools. This is where it all happens, starting with the Site Info tab. We have site name, which would be the title for the website. Site image is the logo for the website. You can drag and drop your file from the File Explorer. The image file can be one of those following file types. And the site homepage creates a link when you click the logo, which will open the URL in a new browser. And for both the site image and site homepage, you're going to need to use the full URL. Continuing on, we have contact email. This will be the email that this will be the email provided for the website's email inquiries. If provided, a link will appear on the bottom left sidebar menu called Contact. When you click it, it will invoke an email for the email provided. Next is privacy page. This is meant to be the privacy policy page for the business. If provided, a link will appear at the bottom left sidebar menu called privacy policy. For both contact email and privacy policy, security must be set. When the accept cookies option is enabled, it allows the system to create a cookie in the user's browser that saves their login settings. As a result, users won't have to enter their credentials every time they access the system using the same browser. And the last two on the tab are temporary files directory. This is the location for the system to store any temporary files or programs it may need during runtime. And force JavaScript CSS reload. This option can be set during development to effectively disable the browser's caching of JavaScript or CSS files used by the site. This helps to ensure that any changes on the servers are applied immediately. Now for the customizations tab. Referring back to when the Webster Plus library environment was created, you have the option to download the PX Plus server library by clicking this download button. We will be showing you this in the demo. Doing this will download all of the Webster CSS and JavaScript files that are used to run the environment and any file maintenances that were generated. I recommend doing this for a couple of reasons. Number one, you can be sure of any element, classes, or ID names that we use. Number two, you can use them as a starting point and make your own customizations to them. Be very cautious if you decide to download first a fresh set of files that you don't override the original downloaded files if you've made any changes to them. And without getting into the weeds too far, you are also given the option to download the editors EdPlus and HTML editor. Head over to the help doc for more information on that topic. The external library URL prefix is an optional field that contains the URL of all referenced HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files used by the application. By default, the Webster Plus applications, CSS, or JavaScript files are located on the PX Plus server, and the syntax needs to include the full URL. Very important note here, gang, is that this will affect your entire environment and your website. The application first looks for a style sheet in the URL that you've provided rather than using the default PX Plus server library or the downloaded library files in the doc.root lib subdirectory that I'm going to download shortly and show you. Further on the customizations tab, we have contents to include on each page. Each one of these files are going to be invoked during runtime. Starting with the custom CSS field, this is where you will enter style rules. This is useful for testing out new styles or setting rules for similar elements. Perhaps you want all of your buttons standardized or headers to look all the same. You could write the rules here. The HTML field would be useful for footers or back to the top buttons or AI buttons or anything added right before the end body tag. The CSS file URL will be a style sheet you want it to include on every page. These rules will be inserted into the style section of the page. The JavaScript file field is similar to the CSS file URL for any additional JavaScript you need included. This link will be inserted into the head section of the page. Both the JavaScript and CSS file URL need to include the full URL. All of these fields will be added during runtime and included on every page. On to the template tab, we have default template file. This is the template page for the left sidebar menu, top header, logo section of the website. Header height defines the dimensions of the header height in pixels. Left edge width defines the dimensions of the left sidebar menu in pixels. Default start page defines the default start or landing page, which you saw when we launched the environment. For the default template and default start page, you can use both default templates or you can specify a custom file of your own. The template colors section is where we will define the colors of the left sidebar, the header, and text. You can also change the color of the even rows in the queries and color of the disabled or locked fields. And if you wanted to change the colors back to default, you can do that just by clicking that Reset to Default Colors button. I will be showing a demonstration on how these are all set and what they change. Finally, at step 5, there are many ways to accomplish building web pages. You've got the file maintenance generator. This creates the HTML and the program that runs the application. You can use any HTML editor of your choice. Visual Studio Code and Notepad++ are two common examples. The PX Plus HTML editor supports inserting shortcodes and previewing Webster Plus pages. And lastly, the Convert Nomads panels using the Create Base Webster Plus Pages utility that Len talked about yesterday. Couple key points about security here, folks, for Webster Plus setup. If security is enabled, the security groups for the left sidebar links will not take effect. The users, groups, and security menu tabs will not be accessible in the top menu bar. However, if you do set security, all of the links and menus will be accessible and the administrative user will need to be set up. I've thrown in a slide here for some troubleshooting tips on how to debug the contents during runtime. These settings are found in the Setup Miscellaneous tab. You've got the Enable Message Box directive, the Save Error Dumps, and the Error Dump email notification. You also have the option to right-click and choose View Page Source or Inspect on the web page, or pressing F12, the F12 function key on the page will also accomplish this. The final topic and main focus for today is styling the lipstick and personality for all your pages. I've added this slide in so you can see all the many ways we accomplish styling. Standard CSS and JavaScript, and Webster Plus setup. Under the standard methods, we have external style sheets. This is the most popular and most modern method. We have internal or embedded styling, which will be coded within the style tags, or inline styling, which isn't recommended because it makes it hard for troubleshooting, or if there's a lot of places to change, very time consuming trying to find them all. Then within Webster, we have customizations and template. Just as you would in normal HTML, you can assign the container a class in order to assign any CSS you want applied. Webster Plus also has some predefined classes, such as fill font and text. An example would be font_NNN, where NNN is the font size as a percentage. You do not require a rule for these in your style sheet, and the WebBind program will automatically create the CSS style, or sorry, the CSS required during runtime and include it on every page. Okay, so it's finally demo time, and like the slide says, the best way to get started is to stop talking and to start doing. So here we've gathered our list of requirements. We have PX plus 2021 or later. The web server is going to be the Easy Web Server. We will install on 8127. We made port 8127. We've made a decision of where the install directory for the website will be installed. We have basic knowledge of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And finally, in preparation for the install, we've created the demo install directory. I'm going to pause our presentation slides here and start you off in the File Explorer, where we already created the demo install directory, and I've already created the project for this demo. As you can see, the install directory is totally empty. So we're going to bring up the IDE where we will install Webster Plus. First, I'm going to hover over this project link beside my project so that you can see that the Webster Plus environment will be installed in the same working directory. Under web deployment, you'll double click on install Webster Plus. I'll manually type in when it comes up, I'll manually type in the full path to my install directory. Need a little backslash there. We're going to change the port to 8127. We'll keep that Easy Web selected, and then we'll click install. When the install is complete, we're just going to click OK. So in the install directory that you see behind here in my install directory, you can now see the directories that Webster Plus created. And in the doc root directory, you can see those two programs. Now that we have what we need to get started, we'll launch our website. We'll launch our website. Back to the IDE under web deployment again, we're going to choose the launch Webster Plus using Easy Web. This is over here. So this is where you can change the port number on the fly, but for now we're just going to leave it as is and click the launch button. You can also launch the website manually at this point by entering the URL in the browser. The message that just displayed is letting you know that the server will be started. You just press OK. Once the browser opens, it does take a couple of seconds here. As you can see, the only option I have is to click setup. So that's what I'll do. The first step to take is setting your security and setting up that admin's password and email. So we're going to click on the security enabled checkbox, and we're going to give it a password. I'm going to just use my work email, and I'm going to click the save button. When you click the save, the Webster configuration file for this environment will be saved in the data directory. Once security is set, you will need to log back in as the admin account to complete the setup steps. So we're just going to go ahead and do that with the password we just gave it. Hopefully I put in the right one. Perfect. So once you're in with security being set and being the administrative user, there is now an inspector and log off link in the left sidebar. I probably don't need to explain the log off link but for Inspector, it basically gives you the ability to use Ed Plus and the HTML editor right in the Webster Plus environment. The next step to take here, and I highly recommend, like I said before, is downloading the PX Plus server library that contains the necessary files for our environment. We will do that by navigating to Setup and the Customizations tab, and there's our Download Lib button. Now, before I click this button, I want to point out that there is a message showing here that tells us that the app can't find the lib directory. That's the one here in pink. Let's go ahead and click that download lib button. So while that's downloading, and it does take approximately a minute and a half, I'm just going to show you some Visual Studio code of that style.css file that's going to come in. So as you can see, there's a ton of selectors with style rules assigned. These are all the rules that are used in the Webster Plus environment, as well as any application that is generated by the file maintenance generator. And there's a lot. So it really does encompass our whole entire environment. So going back to our Webster Plus environment, we're just going to wait. When this is complete, this message will change to a green, and it'll let us know that those 8 downloaded files have been downloaded successfully. So there we go. We have 8 downloaded files, and we have a time and date of when they were downloaded last. So if you're downloading them more frequently, make sure that those files are saved off so that you don't override what you've already changed if you've made any changes. So now we're going to switch projects just because I have a project set up for this demo. And at this point, we're ready to create and add our HTML pages and applications. So I'm going to switch over to another demo project where we've prepared some applications and pages for you ahead of time using the file maintenance generator. And like I said earlier, I don't have to use the IDE. I can manually type in the browser and launch the website manually. Just make sure that your web server is running. So I'll open up another browser, and I'm going to do HTTP on my local host because that's where I have it. It's local to my computer, and my port number for this new demo project is going to be 8288. So for those of you who have tried the demo, you will probably recognize some of these apps when I get logged in here. I've just added what we've already created. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to log in as my admin. All right. So there is a link. So there is a link on one of the resources slides that shows the demo that Susan did at last year's conference on how to create these web pages and programs using the file maintenance generator. I highly recommend reading up on that demo, and also instructions and definitions on how to set up those links are located in the help doc as well. Let's quickly move on to setting up the site info information. So I'm going to go into setup. We're going to start in the site info, which is under our config. Starting with the site name, I'm going to give it our own unique DireXions 2025. The site image, I'm going to go over in my other screen here and grab my image folder. In my demo environment, I'm going to grab my image, and I'm just going to drag and drop it into that drag area, the drop area. Okay, so then I'm going to set the URL to be our pxplus.com page, and I'm just going to use my work email as a contact email. We're going to keep the privacy policy as is. You will have your own private privacy page for your company to put here. And finally, let's just click accept cookies button here, the checkbox, and I'll click save. So as you can see, we have DireXions 2025 at the top, and we have our Webster Plus logo happening up there. So let's go to the template tab. We will leave the default files as is for this demo. I want to make the header a little bit wider, so I'll change that header height to 100. And this is in pixels, guys. And we will leave the width of the left sidebar because I like how wide that left sidebar is, but this right here is going to be a little bit wider. Let's change the color behind the logo up here. So this is going to be the top left corner, and we'll change it to white just to blend it in with the background of the logo. And now I want the left edge to be the same color as the top edge. So I'll use that eyedropper. So this left edge is gray. This would be over here. The top edge is a light white, or a shade lighter or darker than white. And that's up here. I want them to be the same. So I'm going to I'm going to choose this left edge, grab this eyedropper, and once that grid is over the color you like, you're just going to give it a click. It'll just click away there, and now you can see that they're the same. We're going to change our text because our text is going to be a dark gray. Right now it's white, and if I leave it white and have my left edge white, it's going to be translucent. So I'm just going to leave it as a darker gray. So I'm just going to click save, and let's see what happens. Looking pretty good. So the last tab we have here is the customizations tab. This is where most of the fun really happens. The real highlight for this presentation is to apply a more modern look to our web pages. All of the custom CSS is currently coming from the style file that I showed you earlier in Visual Studio Code. I just added style rules to our existing selectors, but you can provide different classes and IDs of your own. Like I said earlier, these fields will only be applied during runtime as well. Now, before I show you what is possible, let's take a look at what we currently have. So I'm going to show you the products application here. I mean, this is pretty good the way it is using the style we currently have. And when I bring up a record, you know, the font is regular font. The titles are left aligned. The fields are tight. The corners are square. If I go to the stats tab here, you can see the disabled fields have borders and they are locked in gray. The sales tab, they have links to navigate to other applications. You've got the invoice and the client ID. Our second row and all of the even rows are going to be the color that was set in the template area. So, I mean, the style as is looking pretty good. Now let's take a look at how easy it is to modernize this application by using some more modern techniques. Now, I'll go back to the sysconfig here, and I'm going to close this one. I'm going to go back to customizations. Starting with the CSS file field, URL file field here, I'm going to enter the URL here. And I'm not going to click save quite yet because I've already figured out all the customizations I want to add to the current style and saved my style sheet called demo.css in the doc root directory. Because I want you to see the compare side by side, I'll make this window smaller. I'm just going to back it up on the products here too, because I want you to see a really good compare. And as you can see, what happened there is we have the screen working on smaller, the ability to work on smaller screens. So it's going to be dropping the fields and such underneath one another as you get into smaller screens like handhelds and such. So I'll right click on the product app, and in a new window, I'm going to bring up the products application again, and then I'm going to move them side by side. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll just make this a little bit bigger so you can see what's happening here. Okay, so they're about the same right now. Now I'm going to go back to that config, and I'm going to save this demo.css, and let's see what happens. Okay, so it looks pretty good. So I'll go back to the products tab here. So on the right, we have the current application for products, and on the left, we have the new more modern looking screen on the left. So starting at the top, we have all kinds of rounded corners, larger center titles. Our fields are larger, and I've updated the colors to be more modern and professional looking. The menus have a nicer hover effect, right? And different colors. I've applied a larger font size. Let's make our screen a little bigger so we can ignore the current here for now. And I'm just going to center here. Okay, so starting off on the general tab here, as you can see, we've got drop downs in the fields for selecting other items. We've got list box, supplier searches, et cetera, or unit-based searches, et cetera, and product code searches. So over onto the inventory tab, our disabled fields no longer have the border. They're borderless and translucent. The list boxes are wider and filling the screen at the bottom. And on the sales tab, we've taken the underline out of the link and changed the color of the links. We've removed the vertical lines on the list box and made the rows wider. So heading over to some sales rep here, sales rep application. You can see the same effects here on the drag and drop field. I've added some color, and when you drag it there, it'll be a different color. On the clients, let's go into clients. We'll bring up another record. So as you can see, it's a lot more modern than what we had before. I mean, there's nothing wrong with what we had before. It's just, this gives it a little more face. So on the accounting tab, you can see our input fields again are bigger. I'm giving a little more room for readability. The history tab, let's find a record. Here's a history tab with a link. So when you hover over it, it shows the cursor pointer. So when I go into invoices, when you have accessed a link, the color of the link and the fields, the row will be a different color. This is a good example of all of the disabled fields. There's no more border and it's translucent to the background color, so it just sticks out. Yes. And the lines on our list box are the vertical lines have been, the horizontal lines, sorry, have been removed. So obviously I'm still tweaking some of these items. So there may be some things you notice that I haven't gotten to yet. But you probably see the bigger picture here. It's really limitless and pretty powerful. So going back to the HTML field, I'm going to go over and steal my script for a footer. And I'll show you what this does. So in here, you can expand this field here. In here, I have set my style. I've set a copyright for PX Plus Technologies, and I have got 3 links. So when I click save, at the bottom of every single page, you're going to see your footer. So if I go into products here, at the very bottom of the page, you see your footer. So that's what the HTML field does. And now I'm going to go into customizations again and talk about this custom CSS field. Oops. Back. Come back. Okay, so sorry about that. And finally, our custom CSS where we can style on the fly. So this is also a great place to test style while developing. The first thing I want to do here is add a theme button at the top of the page so I can show you how you can change the theme quickly. So again, I'm just going to secretly go over to my script here, copy and paste it in, copy and paste it in. Hit the save button, and there's my fall theme button at the top. Now, before I show you what that's all about, when I click save, I'm going to add a button element into the CSS field. I'm just going to scooch this down a little bit. So we're going to show you the button element, where this is what I'm talking about, styling on the fly. We're just going to change this button to be green. So when I click the save button, you can see all my buttons here are green. And if I go into my application, you can see every single button is green and the hover color is not, is still blue because I haven't changed that. I've just changed the background color. So then if I change the color to yellow, not a very good combination, but it works. You can see all the buttons now have a yellow font, and when I hover over it, it still stays the same. So I'm just going to get rid of that and hit save again. And so I saved the best for last. I added the button up there at the top, sort of like the dark light theme mode button. However, this theme will represent a fall Halloween theme. So when I click it, you can see that it changes the theme of my entire application. So, I mean, that's it for this demo today. Let's clean up some of our final slides. Okay. So I've included a few resources slide with some various links to some useful Webster Plus information. The PX Plus forum is a great resource for interacting with other developers of the PX Plus community, and our Knowledge Center is another great place for various documentation. Two highly recommended reads that I mentioned before. One is Devin's Webster Plus demo from last year. It's a higher level from what I've shown you today. It's jam-packed with everything there is to know about Webster Plus. And Susan's web file maintenance generator demo that I mentioned before, highly recommended read there. Again, that's from last year's directions. We also have a four-part YouTube video series for web development, setup, and configuration for Webster Plus. The fourth video of that series is the Webster Plus demo, where you can see an example of our sample accounting system in action. All of these links we've provided that take you directly to the Webster Plus topics. A huge shout out for attending the conference this year, and especially for joining my presentation. If you have any questions at all or have some ideas you want implemented, let us know. We can't support you if we don't know about it. Thanks, everyone. So now it's time to hear from you. Any questions, comments, complaints, or suggestions? Anybody got anything? Did I give it all to you? You got nothing to say? James, you have something to say. I knew you would. Can somebody unmute James, please?
Yeah, thank
James,
you.
you are
Thank you. Um, we have a lot of old character-based programs on a menu system. This is really a question about backward compatibility. We're moving some of those into well, we're moving as many as we can into a Nomads interface so that those people who use our application system will be able to have a more modern feel. What is the compatibility between a Nomad's existing system and the Webster Plus? Is it simultaneously accessible and usable in that context?
Yes, it is, James. So what you're going to do for those Nomads panels that you've been creating is when you get to the uh the Nomads environment, the help me out here, the Nomads screen, there's an option at the top, James, that you'll do, or you can actually right click on the panel, and you're going to regenerate that panel with the file maintenance generator. It's going to create a new program. You can bypass the program by just performing to that program that you have already running your applications.
Okay. Um, so we can have the Nomads, for example, uh, Nomads oriented file maintenance and a Webster file maintenance at the same time.
Correct. It's combined in the new version. It's combined together. The file maintenance generator that you're used to right now, James, is going to, when you get the new version of PX Plus, that version will have the option to choose the HTML page. So you'll have both selected. We can take
Okay.
that offline if you need help with that later.
Mhm. And last question tying in with this is if we have somebody who is in and accessing a record in the existing application, whether it's character or nomads based, and somebody who uses the same record in the Webster Plus environment, they're both accessing the same record. Is there a collision potential as far as updating the information?
Good question. I'll get back to you on that one, James, for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yep. Anybody else? Benji?
Jackie, I just see a few questions in the chat here. So how well does it support mobile devices?
The screens are totally responsive. It's all set up in our current Webster JavaScript script that all of the screens would be responsive and in our CSS.
Okay, and another one here, does the left menu collapse to a hamburger menu, for example?
It doesn't collapse to a hamburger menu. I am looking at that option for a future enhancement. However, you do have the option to collapse it with the arrows that I could have showed you that actually. If I just bring up my screen here on the left, or on my right, I guess, this is the collapsible arrows here. Will just collapse the left menu, but it doesn't turn into a hamburger menu at all.